And with that, I'm turning the floor over to Lori Phillips-Jones, our 8th District Attorney General. She drove an hour and a half, folks, to come over here.
It's a pretty drive, though.
Yes, it is. You're welcome to be here, up here.
I'll just stay right here. If
The
that's
microphone
okay.
is right here if you want.
That pulpit gets a little intimidating to me,
Well,
so
okay.
I'll stay right here.
All right.
Talking about the children affected by meth labs. When I was in Nashville for the DA's conference, had Day on the Hill, where we go and we talk about what our legislative package looks like. There was a meeting that day about meth. They were having sort of a preliminary meeting. Tommy Farmer was testifying, and Tommy shared with the group that the week before in Elizabethton, Tennessee, they found an 8-month-old infant deceased. Cause of death was exposure to a meth lab. An 8-month-old infant can't crawl away, can't walk away, can't get out of that home. The other thing that officers will tell you about homes where they manufacture meth is all the chemicals settle on the ground, where the babies crawl, where the kids' toys are. It is heartbreaking. Last year, 265 children taken out of meth lab homes and placed in state custody. Dan wanted me to talk to you a little bit about your discussions with folks. If you talk to somebody and they say, oh, that's not a problem, I'm not concerned about that. How do we make folks be concerned about meth and the problem that meth creates in our communities? Just want to take a quick survey. Raise your hand if you go to Walmart. I should have said raise your hand if you don't go. In January, the Walmart parking lot in Jacksboro was quarantined for several hours because somebody had a 1-pot meth lab in their car at Walmart. That could be the car that you park next to. Raise your hand if you've ever vacationed in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Do you know how many hotel rooms have had to be quarantined because of meth labs in Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg? That could be the room next to you. So if you start smelling something funny the next time you come, I'm just saying, it's everywhere. Does anybody have rental property near them or apartments? There are a number of homes that have been quarantined for meth labs and rental homes. And you know who has to pay to get them back up to code? The landlord. And it's not cheap to get those homes wiped through to make sure that they're safe for a new renter to come in. Now, this is a really tough question. How many people pay taxes in the state of Tennessee? Oh, don't we hate to pay taxes? Last year, meth cost the state of Tennessee $16 billion. $16 billion. And what that's made up of is investigations, cleanups, people being incarcerated, feeding them, housing them while they're in jail, kids in state custody, healing burn unit patients. And the folks that wind themselves up, and this is going to sound really bad, folks that burn themselves up and end up in the hospital, they don't have insurance because they're not out working normal jobs. That's a cost to us when they do this. Now, let me talk about the difference between a prescription pill dealer and a meth dealer. A prescription pill dealer has to make an appointment and go somewhere to the doctor. They have to invent some type of a story about pain or something like that to get a prescription. And when they get the prescription, they have to go to the drugstore and get that filled and probably talk to a pharmacist and fill out some paperwork and things like that. Meth, on the other hand. If a person wanted to make meth on a Tuesday at 2 o'clock, they could go to Walmart, walk in the door, purchase everything they need, or shoplift it, as the case tends to be a lot of times. Go up to the counter, say, I'm a little stuffy, and present a driver's license, and get Sudafed, get everything you need to make meth, anytime as long as the pharmacy's open, and go home, or even out in their car before they even get home, make meth. It's that individual person that there's no radar on that's the scariest for law enforcement. How do they keep track of it? I need you to ask me a question. Ask me if when you go to a pharmacy and you present your driver's license to get Sudafed, if there's any check into whether that license is valid.
Is there any validation check on that license at all?
Thank you for asking me that question. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, and I don't want to be a person who says our system is not working. But last year we had 3,600 Alaskan driver's license used to purchase Sudafed. Have we got a big tourism industry for Alaskans that I didn't know about all of a sudden? Those are fake driver's licenses. You don't have to present a valid driver's license. There's no validation. I can walk in there today with one that says Phillips-Jones. I can walk in there tomorrow with one that says Pat Seal. I can walk in there with one that says Aaron Russell. And they just write down the name and information. It can be me the whole time. So on that registry that we get people that are purchasing Sudafed, that's not legitimate. There's not 3,600 Alaskan tourists that suddenly need Sudafed while they're in the state. So something. So I was like, wow, I didn't realize that we had, is there a direct flight or what's the, but you know, if you're gonna produce a fake driver's license, nobody's seen an Alaskan driver's license. I should ask that, raise your hand if you've seen an Alaskan driver's license. Nobody knows what a legitimate one would look like. So that's an easy one to dummy up and go in and buy Sudafed. Annually, only 10% of the population of the entire state purchases Sudafed. Only 10%. And that's from the databases that they keep, based on the entire population and the number of people that are buying Sudafed. 10% of the entire population of the state. So why is it such a big deal to enact this legislation? Why is it a big deal? 80% of those people buy no more than 4.8 grams annually. Now the governor has a new bill. And there are a lot of folks nervous about that because we feel that the governor is doing a really good job. And he wants to propose something that is a compromise. But in his bill, there is not an annual cap of how much you can buy. In his bill, it reduces the amount that can be purchased from 9 grams where we are now to 4.8 grams over a 30-day period. And then with an additional override. But there's no annual cap on that. So even though it reduces the amount that can be purchased, you could do that every month. Now, Sudafed is a prescription, and specifically Senate Bill 1791. What this bill does is, number one, it allows the pharmaceutical companies to produce Sudafed in a different way and get exempted from this bill. If they will just take the time and the money to develop the technology to make Sudafed in a different way, because when you manufacture it, you want to separate the pure pseudoephedrine from the rest of the medicine. Right now, the way it's made, it's easy to do that. Some of the drugs have made it harder, like Nexafed makes it harder to extract, and Zefrexd makes it harder to extract. If those, and I'm not a chemist, so please, if anybody is, I'm probably saying this wrong, but if those pharmaceutical companies would make some type of bond to that pseudoephedrine so that you couldn't separate it, it wouldn't affect, this bill would not affect that drug. So it forces them to realize what they're doing to our communities. They have funded surveys that say, oh, people don't want to go to the doctor to have to get Sudafed. The other thing that this bill does is it allows you, if you go into a pharmacy and have a consultation with a pharmacist there, it allows that pharmacist on the spot to write a prescription and give you a, let me see how many day dose. And I've got copies of the bill. If nobody's read it, I'll leave those so that you all can actually have it in your hands and see it today. I think I'm marked a 15-day supply. So a pharmacist can on the spot give you a 15-day supply. If you don't have time to get into your doctor, Now, what a lot of folks that I've talked to have done is when they go for their normal doctor's appointments for blood pressure or anything like that, they say to their doctor, you know, occasionally I have problems with allergies. Do you mind to just put a prescription on file for me at my pharmacy? This is where I normally go to pick up my prescriptions. Will you put something on file that says if I come in and I'm stuffy, then I can get Sudafed? And the doctors will do that. It doesn't mean that you have to specifically schedule a doctor's appointment and get diagnosed with sinus congestion to be able to get Sudafed prescribed to you. Many of us have a primary care physician that we visit on a regular basis, and I know mine, if I called him and said, can you hear what I sound like? He would say, okay, I will send something to the pharmacy with a simple phone call. So, so far as the bill goes, are there other questions that you've had as you've been out talking to folks about the bill that I can help answer? Because number one, you don't have to go to a doctor's visit. You don't have to pay a copay. It doesn't require that. Number two, if the pharmaceutical companies would just do what they should do and create Sudafed in a better way, then this bill won't affect it, and it gives them a way to submit their new product to the TBI, the pharmacy board, and they will look at it and determine if it still needs to fall under this bill, and if they've completed their process to where you can't easily extract that pseudoephedrine, it doesn't even have to fall under this. The other thing that I want to say about the proposed legislation, and Dan and I talked about this last night, whatever other states around us do affects us, especially because we are on the border. When Kentucky did their cap on maximum purchase of Sudafed, oh my gosh, and I'm sure it's this way in Claiborne County too, because in Scott County, we had tons of Kentucky driver's licenses coming to Tennessee. And I'm like, you probably passed 12 pharmacies on your way to get here. Why are you coming here? Well, it's because Tennessee's cap is more. You can purchase more Sudafed in Tennessee. So West Virginia just passed Sudafed as a prescription. So now, what do you think all those folks are going to do? They're going to drive to Tennessee. The same way if you border Kentucky, Mississippi is a prescription-only state. I've not talked to many folks in that end of the state to see what influx they see. But when I look at our local charts of how many people our local sales, in Scott County it was like 58% were local sales. We're an hour off the interstate. Why would anybody from Nashville drive to Scott County to get Sudafed? So it's not what the big pharma will put out a lot of information out there. Oh, this is going to make it hard. Lots of people have colds. There are senior citizens who will be, who will have trouble in the wintertime because they won't have access to Sudafed. Most people have a primary care physician that, if they see that you have a need for that, can call in a prescription for it. So I guess this bill is not meant to hurt law-abiding citizens. Now, will it make it harder for us? Yes. But when I think about $16 billion and what our state could do, I mean, our teachers need raises. For all the stuff that they want them to do, if that money could be put into education or rehabs or something, how great would that be? And the states that have enacted Sudafed as prescription have seen dramatic results. Mississippi, Oregon, when you talk to the Meth task force, they're like, I don't know why we're not doing this. Now, in that discussion in Nashville, and if you call your state legislatures, you may get this, because this is what was brought up, because this is the new thing that the pharmaceutical companies are saying. Well, we have a meth offender registry, and it's not being used. Okay, so what that means is people who have previously been convicted of a methamphetamine offense, the clerk's office is supposed to send that information in Nashville, and they can't go to a pharmacy and buy Sudafed. Well, they've got friends. That's not going to solve our problem. They've got all kinds of smurfers. And when you can buy a box of Sudafed for $5 and sell it for $50, there's a lot of folks that make quick money that way. And I hate to say it, but it's mothers trying to feed their children. It's elderly folks trying to have extra income. And so it's a problem that touches all parts of society. Now, the resolutions. I wanted to tell you that there's also a movement in lower middle Tennessee near Winchester. Chief David Young there has been very active in this. He calls Winchester the birthplace of meth. I don't know if that's true or not. He's a really great speaker. And they have enacted ordinances, and I didn't think about this when we talked about the resolutions. The ones that have been enacted: Deckard, Estill Springs, Laverne, Waynesboro, Meigs County, Decatur, Martin, and Winchester. The Tennessee Sheriff's Association has come out in support of this bill, as well as the Police Chiefs Association. Now, that's effective, but the legislatures kind of look at that as, well, yeah, why wouldn't they like it? It makes their job easier. If we eliminate meth labs, it would make police officers' jobs easier. That's why it's so important that they hear from Stand in the Gap, and they hear from your anti-drug coalitions, and they hear from folks that are not in law enforcement. They don't have a stake in this. They're just a concerned citizen. Because for me, you know, many of us could live different places, but I chose to live where I live and raise my kids where I live because I feel that Tennessee is the best place in the world to live. It's a Christian place. Our communities come out in support of each other. And the part of this whole meth thing that affected me the most is when our front headlines of the paper talked about two young boys riding their bikes out behind their trailer park and noticed these Gatorade bottles that looked a little funny. And how different their lives would have been if they'd have said, wonder what that is, and opened it up and exploded. I don't want to live in a society where I can't send my kids out to play. I mean, I live in a small town so that I can, and I know that they're safe. But if we have people with their shake and bake, throwing it out the window, cemeteries, I don't know how many folks go to visit cemeteries and do cleanup. Law enforcement will tell me constantly, they get calls from people, we're trying to come up here and clean up our church's cemetery and we think we found a meth lab. Because it's quiet and it's isolated and people will go there to make meth. So it just, construction crews have told me they've gone to try to clear off property and they have to call law enforcement to clean up the meth labs before they can get in there and clean it up. So it affects so many areas of our lives. And even though you might not have a meth house right next door to you, your kids may go to school with another child whose parents are cooking meth in their home. And when they put on their jacket, if they have a jacket, I hope they have a jacket, to go to school, they're bringing all the chemicals with them to school. We had a school resource officer who said, and this sounds bad, these kids smell like ether. I think there's something wrong. They went out and there was a meth lab in that home. And it was because of the school resource officer smelling that on those kids. So even though it might not be right next door to you, if you have kids or grandkids in school, it can affect them too. I have copies of the resolutions, and I know we've talked about the counties enacting them, but Chief Young has gone to different cities to ask them to enact them too. And I think that's effective because the more we can take to Nashville, the better. But the more we can show them all these county commissions, all these city councils have looked at this and are in support of this. So that may be something else that we want to look at to have even more to take to them. Scott County just passed theirs Tuesday night. And one of the questions I got asked was, do I have to go see my doctor and pay a copay to get a prescription for Sudafed? And I said, no, this bill does not require that. So, and it can also be a prescription by a nurse practitioner. Yes, Edmund?
I don't take Sudafed because I need to. So, have you heard people that take Zephyrex and Nexafed say it works as well? Because that's something we need to be able to tell them.
You've got some. What's that? Okay. Yes, and Edwin's question was, have you heard folks talk about folks who regularly use Sudafed for their allergies, anybody that I've talked to that has switched to Nexafed or Zephyrex and how they work? I have a friend that's a pharmacist who would regularly take Sudafed. And when I started talking to her about this, she said, I'm going to call and try to get some Nexafed and take it. She told me that she did not notice any kind of a difference once she switched to Nexafed. She had the same relief of being able to dry up that sinus congestion with an Nexafed that she did with
Well,
support.
that's something that will be asked.
Yes.
Yeah, I've noticed
Yes.
that too. I've been taking some of the Nexafed. Works fine. We've told all our doctors in Addison County to please recommend to their patients to order these. And we're hoping that all the drugstores, pharmacies will start carrying it.
Great.
There's another thing that we're fighting a lot, and I said, misinformation. I'm coming to find out that misinformation is the biggest battle we got. Everybody says Sudafed, Sudafed, Sudafed. That is one product. There are 100, Tommy Farmer told me, there are 124 other products that will do the same thing, okay? Aleve D, I've been taking it last week. It's got pseudoephedrine in it. It's not the name Sudafed. That's just what everybody's locked onto. Pseudoephedrine, ephedrine, and in the drug world, the narcotics or the law people, PSE. That's the acronym for pseudoephedrine. It's the chemical pseudoephedrine, and people have got to understand it at home. Pseudoephedrine is in many products, okay? We're going after pseudoephedrine. We're not going after Sudafed. That's just a company, a product. And that Zephyr D and others, they work. Sir.
I also noticed you can, on the counter, you can buy pseudoephedrine products, I think I was in Kroger's or Walmart. Anyway, but it's only 5 milligrams.
Yeah.
That is true, and Tommy Farmer told me that also last night. I could not believe this, but you can go into a convenience store and get a pseudoephedrine product. It will only be a certain amount, but if I went down and found 10 different convenience stores, I'd have what I need. One other thing, when you go back and you do a little study on your own, and like I say, I had too much time this week probably, but I looked on the Aleve D that I got for this terrible nasal congestion I had and pain and discomfort. And one tab is 120 milligrams. Okay, the box was 20 tabs. Okay, all right, so that's 1,200 milligrams, right? Okay, I mean 2,400. Excuse me. All right, so that's 10. That's 20. If you take 2 of those a day, all right, that's 10 days worth. 10 days worth, 2,400. 2.4 grams or 2,400 milligrams, right? 10 days. You go out to a 30-day, and there's some people can have what? In the state of Tennessee right now, 6.7 or something grams in a 30-day period. The point Tommy Farmer told me was this, so it's no need getting hung up on numbers, but he said, here's the point. He said the state allows you right now to go and legally purchase more pseudoephedrine product than the doctor or the pharmaceutical directions on the back would have you take in a 30-day period.
Yeah.
The pharmacist could write your prescription for 15 days. One of the questions I got was, how many times can that happen?
Let me look and see if the bill specifically says it. I think they can only do that once because they are expecting you to go to your primary care physician after that. What it says is a pharmacist is authorized to dispense an immediate methamphetamine precursor upon oral prescription of the pharmacist, reduced promptly to writing and filled by the pharmacy. This pharmacist-generated prescription may not exceed a 15-day supply of the product for a daily dosage of 240 milligrams. So that they are allowed to dose it, but it does limit the amount that they can.
One time per year, per 30 days, per life, per...
You know, this doesn't specifically say. There is no yearly cap on how many times a pharmacist could do that. But
Would be control over them going to multiple pharmacies.
yes, because you still have to put it into the Implex system, yes. And we've seen great success with the controlled substance database system because the doctors and pharmacists are now checking that before they prescribe things. And the pharmacies regularly check the Implex system to make sure that they can do the sale and there's not a block on it. So the new law does provide for keeping the NPLEX system and still putting even the prescriptions in the NPLEX to keep up with that.
So the pharmacist could have the discretion to write in more than once, is that what you're saying?
I think so. It does not limit the number of times, but it says it can't exceed a 15-day supply, which would be 240 milligrams. Now, something interesting in Chief Young's newsletter that he sent out, over the last year, 529 pharmacies across the state have taken pseudoephedrine products out of their stores completely. Because they don't want the hassle.
Yeah, most of the smaller pharmacies that I visited, typically, so.
It's your big boxes. It's Walgreens, Walmart, CVS that are more leery about that. Locally, our Walgreens, I went to the managers and I said, how can you do that? Because, corporate has rules and things that they put on. And they said, if you will write us a letter and say, thank you for helping our communities by taking Sudafed off the shelves. And we did that. And so they switched and started selling Nexafed and Zephyrex. I'm going to put them together. But see, it used to, if you walked in the pharmacy and said, I've got a cold, I want some Sudafed, they would get the Sudafed off the shelf, lay it down, and you start that process. Now, when somebody walks in and says, I'm congested, I need something, they'll take that Nexafed down and lay it down, and it's funny, like, can you wait just a minute? I'll be right back. And they'll run out to whoever they're in the car with, and they'll be like, what's this? Will they still pay me for this? And they'll come back. Either they won't come back in, or they'll say, that stuff really didn't work for me last time. That's okay. And they'll walk out the store. So.
I've had reports that pharmacies are selling products with pseudoephedrine without even signing the bill or showing a driver's license. So
Well.
that's, it was like CVS
Well, there you
in
go.
Oxford.
So there you go.
There's,
It's a flawed system. I mean, it really is. And if Joe, who cooks meth all the time, knows that the CVS on Walker Springs, I'm just picking something up here, does that, then Joe and all his buddies are going to go to CVS, and their numbers are going to be really good. They're going to be selling a lot of product and making a lot of profit for that store. So it's a money game. So most of the pharmacies we talk to, though, have been like, it's a blessing. We don't have the foot traffic we used to. We don't have all these folks shoplifting lithium batteries. I think that's the most expensive thing. So they're like, just sliding them in their pocket on the way out. Gets into their profit margin. So they have said it's a blessing to not sell Sudafed and not make it easy for folks to get those products that they couldn't make. And I'm sorry, I'm one of the ones guilty of saying Sudafed, because that's what most people think of as a little red pill. But there are other pills out there that you can extract it out of. So, and obviously, if Nexafed and Zephyrex have come up with the technology to make it hard to extract that, then other manufacturers can. So. Any other questions?
What about, I think I saw where Dan posted maybe on the Standing Gap Facebook page that it don't cost any more to get it from your pharmacist. But we shared this, that we see on the Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a few other remarks on comments, about it. And how do we get that out that it doesn't cost more for a pharmacist
Right.
to do that for you?
Well, and what I think people need to discuss with their doctor that's doing the prescription is what kind of a dosage is in that prescription. Because if you're a person that has a $25 copay, that doctor may want to give you a larger supply of that, versus if your copay is, say, $5 on something like that. And that's an issue that needs to be addressed. But the doctor, I would think, would have some idea of, okay, what's your copay on this type of drug, this type of drug, this type of drug, and then would be able to dispense something that would not make it. Because Sudafed's about $5 to $7 a box, I think, something like that.